Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Mindset, the pitfalls. Our last pitfalls is about the lean startup approach. And I had a chance to invest in the company 2 years ago, which I really liked, and I didn't do the investment. I don't know why, but 2 years ago, the service was ready, and I was able to try that out at least to some extent. The service is still not out by today. I don't know what these guys are doing, but that's the case. And I ask myself, do they really go the entrepreneurial way? And we talked about the entrepreneurial way, and that's the last pitfall, or the last two pitfalls I'd like to talk about, is failing to bring an MVP to the market. Because what some entrepreneurs want to do, and that might be a very German thing, because the Germans want to be perfect, but it's all over the world. There are people who want to be perfect before they go out to the market. So they prepare a long time before they launch a product because they want the product to be perfect. And for sure, everybody wants to be perfect, but if you face some uncertainty, this is not going to help you. You have to go out earlier. So you prepare the minimum viable product, version 1, and I said that with our comparably crappy website, the first one we had, it was crappy, but it was okay. It was not too crappy. It was okay, but we were relatively fast during these days. We could gain some experience. We made another mistake. We didn't capture the learning, but we were fast in the market. And we could learn that our product will work because people came to our website. And despite the fact that many told us, no, I'll never use your service. And they appeared on our website too. So this helped to understand. And then we developed a new version. So we had an MVP version 2, version 3, and so on. And we were into the market a lot earlier. Actually, a launch was a lot before. And this is what we said entrepreneurs should do. Especially, again, if you deal uncertainty, if you don't know whether customers will accept what you do. There's another experience I made during these days because we introduced a commission then. And people told us before when we introduced or when we announced the commission, we will leave your website if you introduce a commission. I had many calls leaving our website. At the very end, it was a single-digit percentage of people who left the website. And there was many of these guys who called me before didn't leave because they needed to do the business. They needed to sell the books. And this is when I experienced sometimes you don't listen to what the people tell you in advance. You have to bring something on the market and try to see how they act later on. And this is what the lean startup approach is about. So if you fail to bring the MVP to the market, if you want to do everything perfect, you don't learn from customers. And another company who does it with the MVP has a big advantage. For sure, it's not nice to get critics from customers, and customer criticism might be very, very harsh. But to be honest, if you do that first way, that first approach, so you prepare for a long time and then launch your product, there are also people who criticize you. So you can't avoid criticism from the market. That's why we say, okay, working yourself into a market in steps using the MVP is in most cases the better idea. I mean, this is not going to work in med technology, where you need CE certification, FDA approval. That's a different story, but in many cases, this is going to work out perfectly. And we talked about BlackBerry a lot. We talked about BlackBerry versus iPhone a lot, and there's the second mistake associated with those two companies. The question of how willing are you to adapt your original idea? Are you willing to change it? Are you willing to pivot it? And as we said before, in 2009, BlackBerry, and this is the first here, BlackBerry was awarded one of the fastest growing companies from Fortune magazine. And the sales, so the million phones sold per year, was higher than the iPhone sales, which you can also see there if I don't write too much into the slide. You can see that. But then look at what happened afterwards. The sales went up, but then BlackBerry sales went down and iPhone sales went up tremendously. Why is that? Because BlackBerry still wanted to stick to the keyboard, and that's why it wasn't possible to really make the display bigger. You see, the display here was getting bigger. And I mean, the only thing they could have done was bring an MVP to the market. Only display, touch screen, no keypad like an Apple. And we would have seen, maybe it would have worked for BlackBerry. But they didn't. They didn't want to do that. And maybe, as we said before, they want to prove the world that they know how customers use it. They didn't at the very end, because it was not the business customers, it was driven by the private consumers, but it converted also into the business customers. And that's, to some extent, an example. There are more examples for these pitfalls. And this is what Jeff Boss, an entrepreneur contributor, wrote in 2014. A minimum viable product is the least amount of product or service you can bring to market. And then, this is the interesting part. Good judgment only comes from experience. Everybody would say, yes, that's true. But experience typically comes from bad judgment. It comes from trying something, making a mistake, capturing a learning, and trying to make it better afterwards. So the toughest lessons to learn are usually the most costly in terms of resources and capital. That's true. And I mean, I told you a story where we learned it the hard way with a new product and we lost $1 million. This is what happens. But don't lose another $1 million. Stop your business or pivot your business, which we didn't do. So that's the first example. And the second example is what Jason Goldberg actually said himself, and he founded Fab.com, for example. And he said, we spent $200 million and we have not proven out our business model. Actually, he talks about he haven't proven out the business model. I hope he didn't want to be smart, because if you spend $200 million, you have enough resources in order to go out of the building with your MVP and capture learnings, and by spending at least spend that for learning. But he said, we have not proven what we know precisely what our customers want to buy, but we have spent 2/3 of the cash. Holy shit, this is a big deal. So he noticed he's gonna have a problem. So he could have used his 2/3, which is 133 million, if I calculate that right, at least for learning, and then he might have known better what customers wanted to buy. So how do you prevent yourself from running into these pitfalls? Actually, first of all, do not try getting everything right the first time. It's not gonna work, especially if you deal with uncertainty. Go out of the building. Bring the MVP, the minimum viable product to the market early on. And then test the new features without considering sunk costs. But if you see that a feature doesn't work, stop it. Do something else. Try a new feature or pivot your business. Be willing to adapt your company or your product or your idea, and determine why customers value your product and service. Because the only way to really find out is by looking at the actual behavior of usage, whether they buy it, whether they spend money, and how much money they spend on your product. So if you don't go out of the building with an MVP, you will never have that learning. And this was the last pitfall we wanted to talk about. So now we're at the very end of the entrepreneurial mindset, and what we did is we helped to unfold your entrepreneurial personality but also to avoid the pitfall to be too overconfident. So look at what experience you have, and experience might be helpful in build your business, but don't stick to that too much, because a business is always a new thing, especially dealing with uncertainty. So don't be too overconfident. Secondly, when you create your business idea and evaluate its potential, it's good to ask for the problem, for the customer, for the willingness to pay. But if you ask for the problem, go deeper. Try to understand whether it's only you or someone else. If you ask for the customer, try to understand if it's only the group around you or if it's someone else. And this is also a pitfall entrepreneurs do, that they do not really identify the real problem, and they underestimate the other solutions which are there, and then they say, we do not have any competition. That's the worst sentence you can make, so never say that. The next thing is apply the process of successful entrepreneurs. This is go out of the building, try to fail fast. And I'm saying fail fast. Try to make mistakes, because making mistakes is not a bad thing. You have to learn from the mistakes, don't make them again. So make the mistake, capture the learning, do something better. And if you do that over and over again, in small steps and bigger steps, you will lose money, but this is an investment into learning. So it's positive, and you'll be on the positive side. Next thing what you have to do is build your own team, establish relevant partnerships. If you build your own team, it's always a question, do I do it with friends or without, or with complete strangers? And in total, as we cited it, it's business first. So look at the relevant skill set you need to have it to the table. It might be your friends, and you know your friends better, but sometimes you don't look at your friends close enough. So this is a real tough discussion. However, what I've seen a lot of times that teams fall apart, especially in bad times. And if you look closer into that, it was because they didn't look at the friends close enough, the people close enough, the skill set, the personality, and also the motivation of the co-founders. So at least ask for that, skill set, personality, motivation. If you have a good picture on that, then you might build a good team, and then look at the conflicts which might come up and try to manage those. That's the team aspect. Then you get your company started, and we said that go out to building, and going out to building is using your MVP, your minimum viable product. Don't try to be perfect, because you can never be perfect if it's something new. You have to understand the customer, and the only way to understand the customer is go out with an MVP, look at what the customer does, capture the learning, and try to go on with that. And if you do that, you watch out for the critical obstacles of a new venture, so you avoid at least some of the pitfalls. Although I'm still saying make mistakes, especially in a situation of uncertainty. It brings you to the path of success. And this is what we want with our MOOC on the entrepreneurial mindset. So if you like that, why don't you also visit other MOOCs we made? There's a VC MOOC out there, how to raise money from venture capitalists, and lots of other MOOCs are coming. So I'm happy to see you again. Have fun with your business, and please be a successful entrepreneur.